Most of you think Harvard students are just naturally smarter than you, but that's exactly what they want you to believe. Instead, they are using a secret playbook. I spent the last 2 months researching Harvard students, their secret techniques, and even interviewed some of them. And I noticed one thing that will shock you. These students aren't geniuses. They're not naturally talented. And heck, some are even dumber than you. But how did they still make it big? Well, they have a secret playbook that is passed from senior students down to the others, and they don't reveal it to any outsiders. However, I was able to get my hands on it using a friend, and believe me, this playbook consists of just 4 easy techniques. While you're grinding 12 hours a day with highlighters and flashcards, Harvard kids are using these 4 psychological loopholes that make studying feel like cheating. And no, this isn't some study tips from TikTok garbage or another recycled productivity hack from ChatGPT. This is the real insider knowledge that creates the gap between you and the top students in the world. I'm about to expose the exact system they use to absorb information twice times fast and spend less than half the time that you spend. But there's one technique at the end that's so controversial, some people consider it illegal, but I will show it as well. Here's the first technique. First thing I noticed about Harvard students is that they talk to themselves. At first, I thought they were just weird, but then I realized what they were actually doing. See, when you study normally, you read something and think, okay, I get it, but after 2 hours your brain is empty. Harvard students don't trust their brains. They know it lies to them, so instead of just reading, they pretend to teach it. I remember watching a friend of mine going from one corner of the room to the other while he was preparing for his history exam, and he wasn't rote learning. He was talking aloud like he is giving a presentation, and moving his hands like there were students in front of him. Then, he would come up with random questions about the topic, and answer like a teacher. I think it was a bit weird, but then I realized that he was using the Feynman Technique. This forces your brain to actually understand the stuff, not just memorize it, because if you can't explain it simply, you don't really get it. I tried it myself during my semester finals, and honestly, it works better than any study method I've ever seen. But you can't just stand in the room for the whole day and present what you learned, while you are studying till 3 a.m. just so you can learn more. Harvard students are sleeping at 12 a.m., yet making more progress than you. It's all because of this next technique. This second technique is by far the best after the Feynman technique. Every Harvard student I talked to had the same study schedule. They'd study for exactly 50 minutes, then disappear for 10 minutes. It's because your brain remembers the beginning and end of things better than the middle. You might have noticed it when watching your favorite Netflix show. You can remember the beginning of the episode and the end, but the middle part becomes blurry. You can't remember it perfectly. Harvard students figured out how to cheat this system. By breaking into 50-minute chunks, they create way more memorable moments. 50 minutes is a very short interval, so by the time you finish a topic, your brain is not completely out of energy. And just when you are about to burn out, the 10-minute break jumps in to restore your energy. But the real genius is what the Harvard students do during those 10 minutes. They don't start scrolling on TikTok or Instagram. They go for a walk or just sit in the fresh air. This lowers the mental stress of the brain, and it becomes ready for another 50-minute session. I tried this for 1 week and cut my study time in half while remembering twice as much. But that's nothing compared to the memory technique these students use that actually makes other people do the work for them. This third technique is so sneaky that the people being used by it don't even realize that they are being used. Most people like you and me might think that the Harvard students love to help each other so they study in groups, right? Wrong. I interviewed a girl named Sarah. She said that she helps others, but in a very clever way. Whenever someone faces an issue, she is the first one to help them. The other student thinks she's being humble and helpful, but Sarah is actually using them as a memory tool. When you learn something for yourself, your brain treats it like maybe important information. But when you teach it to someone else, your brain thinks that the other person's future is now dependent on you, so you should not mess this up. Suddenly, that information becomes super important in your memory. Sarah wasn't just memorizing facts. She was making her brain think that other people's grades are dependent on her knowledge. While others think she is being helpful, Sarah is using them as study tools. They had no idea they were being used as human study tools. Within 1 semester, Sarah went from average to the top of her class using this technique. But this innocent trick is nothing compared to the psychological warfare technique that some professors want to ban. However, if you subscribe to the channel, I will give you even more dark knowledge to study faster and become the topper of your class in no time. This last technique is so ruthless that you will be disgusted by yourself, but you need to know how the top students of the world behave. Harvard students don't just compete with each other, they psychologically break down their competition. My Harvard friend told me about a guy named Marcus. They were studying algebra, and all of them were stressed because the teacher was asking questions for tomorrow's exam. Marcus would just sit and listen. He won't answer any questions. Instead, he'd wait for someone else, and after the explanation, he'd casually say something like, "This is just like that theorem we learned last semester." You see what he did there? He wasn't showing off. He was doing something way more sinister. He was making everyone else feel stupid and diverting their focus from the main topic to something useless. Marcus knew that in most classes, grades are relative, which means other people failing helps you succeed, so he would subtly destroy everyone's confidence while seeming helpful. Instead of asking questions, you connect things to harder topics, or the useless ones. Is this unethical? Yes. Is this how top students stay on top? 100%. The truth is, Harvard students understand something regular students don't. Learning isn't just about studying harder. It's about studying smarter and positioning yourself better than everyone else. While you're trying to be a good student, they're studying to dominate. You can keep doing what you've always done, or you can start using this same playbook that's been creating winners for years. But before leaving, I would leave you with a quote. If you always do what you always did, you will always get what you always got. I think it's time for you to change.